Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today, I'm joined by Aimee Irwin. She is the Vice President of Strategy over at Experian. Aimee, how's it going today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I am really excited to chat with you. It is the week before Christmas as we are recording this. Folks are probably listening to this in the midst of their holiday break. But for right now, I am enjoying a great day as well. Aimee, we're going to be talking about keeping customers at the heart of your marketing campaigns and really tactically and strategically what that means as we start to unpack that in our conversation today. Before we do, though, Aimee, I would love for you to kick us off with a little bit about your background and what you and your team at Experian are up to these days.
Great, sure. I lead strategy and partnerships at Experian, and my team helps Experian really think about the future, think about where we should be investing to help our clients grow. And a lot of that comes down to identity, digital, and a lot of the new forms of channels to communicate with customers, like, for example, advanced TV. So we work a lot in those areas. We look for new data sets, and we help our sales team and executives think about where we should be going next. And then we also forge partnerships to help us get there.
I love it. So let's dive right in, Aimee. One of the things you and I were talking about a little bit offline is this common theme that we've heard from our guests about, keeping customers at the heart of every marketing strategy. Tactically, I think you've got some good things to share about different types of data that allow you to actually tactically do that and how they work together. Can you kick us off there as we kind of geek out on some data strategy?
Sure. And I'll give you a little background on the division that I work in Experian. A lot of people recognize Experian as a credit bureau. We are a marketer. We have ads on TV. My division really helps brand marketers leverage the power of data and technology to make the right marketing decisions and better understand and connect with consumers. So while many marketers have first-party data to really have a 360 view of the customer, you need to augment that with third-party data, and that's where Experian comes in. We help brands connect disparate data sets, both first-party and third-party, to better understand consumers and create a single customer identity or customer view, which has a number of applications in the world today. So you asked about first-party data, third-party data, and how we think about that. Well, as you mentioned, customers really need to be at the heart of every marketing strategy, and first-party data is certainly critical to that. So a brand marketer, and that comes in different forms. If you're a retailer, you have a lot of different touch points with a consumer. You may have a loyalty program that has an app that consumers are interacting with. You have in-store visits. You probably have an email list. You have a website. You maybe also sell directly on your website as well as in your stores. You have transaction data. You may have a catalog and do direct mail. There's a lot of different interactions. People are interacting with retailers every day. If you're an auto manufacturer, people buy cars every 3 or 4 or 5 years sometimes. So you have much fewer touch points with the consumer. So you're going to rely a lot more on that third-party data if you're an auto manufacturer. But if you're a retailer, you're still going to need to bring in that third-party data to get a complete view of your customer and really understand that customer across all the different channels that that consumers are interacting with. So if you think about today versus 20 years ago, consumers are interacting with content, consuming content on computers, on mobile phones, on televisions, and oftentimes, sometimes even at the same time. So to understand who that customer is and all of those, all that digital footprint all those little footprints that they're leaving and connect the dots can be very challenging. And that's really that's where we come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you point out some good examples there, depending on your target market, depending on your industry. That mix of first and third party data might be different, but you make a good point that they can really serve to be complementary. As I talk to a lot of marketing teams, Aimee, it seems like the brand team is focused on one thing. The digital team often has a lot of that data that can be leveraged, but sometimes there's not that connection between the digital team and the brand team. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you see effective marketing teams doing to kind of bridge that gap so that the data can inform what the brand team is doing, and across digital content and brand, the teams can work together to, leverage data and be more effective as they, produce content, put it out there for top, bottom, middle of the funnel, everywhere within everything that they're doing. So many things at once, it seems like, with most of the teams I talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. There certainly is a brand marketing team and a digital marketing team. But it's not just those two teams these days. It's also the e-commerce team and the mobile app product team. All of those teams have to be working together to create the customer experience across all the different channels. So mobile's really shifted the way that people live their lives, as you probably have experienced. We seem to be attached to our mobile phones. And you can purchase products, watch videos, research information, and communicate all from this, very small device. And brands need to have a strong connection with customers via mobile and implement coordinated campaigns across devices and channels. So whether that's direct mail, TV, mobile, and desktop display. So that touches more than just the marketing team. That touches, the product teams that develop the mobile apps, as well as your e-commerce teams. So having all those teams interact with a customer, working together to ensure that they're providing a consistent customer experience is critical. And then also making sure that all those teams are collecting and aggregating that data in one place so that that customer, ABC, has already been to a mobile app and researched something when they then land on your website, so you can give them a more tailored experience that's going to be more relevant to them, because it really comes down to relevancy. If you can't be relevant, it's going to be very hard to get your customers' attention.
Imagine it, a spreadsheet filled with rows and rows of your sales enablement assets. You've devoted 2 years to organizing this masterpiece, only for it to stop making sense. This was Chad Trabucco's reality. As the head of sales enablement at Glint, a LinkedIn company, he's responsible for instilling confidence in his sales reps and arming them with the information they need to do their jobs. However, when his glorious spreadsheet became too complex, he realized he needed a new system. That's when Chad turned to Guru. With Guru, the knowledge you need to do your job finds you. Between Guru's web interface, Slack integration, mobile app, and browser extension, teams can easily search for verified knowledge without leaving their workflow. No more siloed or staled information. Guru acts as your single source of truth. For Chad, this meant Glint sales reps were left feeling more confident doing their jobs. See why leading companies like Glint, Shopify, Spotify, Slack, and more are using Guru for their knowledge management needs. Visit b2bgrowth.getguru.com to start your 30-day free trial and discover how knowledge management can empower your revenue teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not only do I love, free 2-day shipping and now free 1-day shipping, oftentimes from Amazon, but their ability to show me things that are relevant to make holiday shopping easier because I look at something and finding other things that are related or suggested, are oftentimes they're making my customer experience better and therefore, more relevant, which is improving my customer experience. So as you mentioned, just being attached to our devices and the other things that we're doing as consumers ourselves, can see that playing out. This aggregating data across multiple functional roles and coordinating multi-channel campaigns. It seems like, that coordination of data, content, and the actual efforts to execute those campaigns across multiple teams is something that, just about every marketing team I talk to knows that they should be doing. Can you speak to some of the specific challenges that are holding some marketing teams back from being able to, more effectively leverage the data across these functional groups, run coordinated campaigns, and what you see some successful teams doing to overcome some of those challenges, Aimee?
Absolutely. A lot of those challenges come down to identity. Brand marketers need to connect the dots from all those different channels and all their efforts. So we at Experian are actually helping brands bridge mobile to other digital and offline attributes to help uncover that 360-degree customer view, which will lead up to more effective marketing campaigns and campaigns across all channels. So we've talked about how people consume information on more devices and channels than ever before. And each of those channels creates that digital footprint. And while each footprint's important, it's only one piece of the puzzle. So you need to understand the full picture, and that requires a tremendous amount of data, often coming from multiple sources, as you just noted. The proliferation of devices has forged a need for marketers to improve their identity management practices to better understand their consumers and deliver those relevant messages across those channels. We at Experian recently launched our Marketing Connect platform, which helps businesses manage a wide range of data types and sources, as well as remain compliant with privacy standards. So this platform is actually based on an Experian-wide identity platform that was developed by our centralized research and development group called Experian Data Lab, and they brought in AI and machine learning to address all these identity challenges. We recently launched this, and we have a number of clients using it. I can't say specific names, but I will say that one example is a retailer that was able to identify an audience to target, leveraging both our Experian data as well as their internal data. So they'll take their internal data on a specific customer set that would be, say, interested in buying children's clothing. And then we'll take that data and model it based on our audiences so they can get a much bigger audience to target. They would target that audience through addressable TV with messaging to come into their stores about a sale they're having on children's clothing. They would follow up then with digital and mobile messages targeted to that same audience in those digital environments, which of course requires that identity connection, and then leverage location data to measure whether those individuals actually visited one of their stores. And that's an example of a multi-channel effort. Some channels are easier to coordinate than others. It's much harder to do in channels where you can't identify the consumer as much. Mm-hmm. But with digital, mobile, and addressable TV, which TV is becoming much more addressable, much more data driven, yep. You can have coordinated messages there, and then measure the results both in terms of store visits and then ultimately transaction data.
Yeah, I love that example. So we talked about some of the challenges and how folks are overcoming coordination. The other challenge I see with a lot of teams with their multi-channel efforts is then measurement, tying back, looking at performance and looking at, okay, where did this, revenue actually come from? What things influence then? And there are all sorts of attribution models. We could, spend episodes and episodes on that. But as we wrap here, Aimee, could you speak a little bit to some of the measurement challenges that marketing teams are facing and what they're doing to address those, very similarly as you did to the coordination on the front end?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, if you can't if you can't measure your campaigns, you're really at a disadvantage because you really need to understand the ROI of your marketing dollars. And we also help marketers with measurement because that also can come down to identity as well. When you think about what you really need to do is connect that exposure data. So, the pixel and who saw an ad on a computer or in an addressable TV or on a mobile phone or direct mail piece, and then understand what effect then that had on a purchase. And I think measurement, I would say, that there are companies that have that direct transaction data that's easier to link. And then there's other companies that are, one step removed, and that measurement becomes a little bit more difficult. In general, there's going to be challenges on the identity front unless you have a really strong identity partner to help you connect the dots on the exposures versus the transactions. We've been Experian's been a safe haven matching partner for a lot of advertisers for many years, so we're able to take their first party data and put it into a safe, clean room, match it with, say, exposure data from the television providers, and do it in a privacy-friendly way where that data doesn't need to leave. It doesn't need to go from that first party then over to the media provider, and that's helpful there. That's helpful there to have that trusted third party to help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Coordination, measurement, privacy throughout the entire process. Again, another topic that we could delve deeper into. We may have to have you on again, Aimee, to go deeper there because things are obviously have changed and are continuing to change on the privacy front as folks look to leverage their data to develop more effective marketing campaigns that are coordinated across channels, that are more effectively measured on the back end. Aimee, for now, if anybody listening to this would like to ask any follow-up questions on you, maybe go deeper on that topic of privacy or ask a follow-up question on something that you touched on today, or just stay connected with you and the Experian team, what's the best way for them to reach out?
They can go to audiences@experian.com.
Easy enough. Well, Aimee, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.